What's up, everybody? Doing one of these solos for the first time in quite a while. Um, Lots changed in my life. I am now a father of two. Thankfully, two healthy babies. Well, shouldn't say it like that. My daughter turns two next week. She's doing well, and my son just turned literally a month old today. So everything's going well. I've was on the pod last week. Wasn't able to make last night. I'm working on Saturdays. I'm going to try and do some Saturday night stuff as much as I can by myself or potentially with others who can't make the Friday podcast. Um, we're going to talk a little baseball, a little NFL, and I will give my state of the union on Wisconsin football. And I will touch a little Wisconsin basketball at the end of the pod tonight. Very excited for that. So let's get right into it. I gave my NL, NLDS and ALDS predictions in the chat. I would kind of like to talk about them as I didn't get obviously didn't get a chance on the pod to talk about them. I did have the Cubs in 4. That pick was mainly based off how we had been playing. That's on me for not taking into account the idea that maybe we kind of just mailed it in the last month of the season and we weren't really, going all out necessarily. Today was very encouraging. Bats got going. Chase Boyd after not even a full inning of work. That's the Cubs number 1 right now. So, that's really a good sign. Freddie pitched well. No complaints. Gave up a couple solo shots, whatever. Like, he pitched after the first inning, he was pitching with a 6-1 lead. So it's like, you take it with a grain of salt, anything after that. I was very encouraged from what I saw. Obviously, the Jackson Chourio thing made, I speak for myself, I guess, but it made me really hold my breath on the rest of the series. But to hear him come in the post game after the MRI and say that he feels good and he's ready to keep competing, that's a real positive sign. I mean, I personally thought that he was not going to play again this series and maybe the rest of the postseason if he pulled that hammy again. So it was kind of really good to hear him come out post game and be like, "Yeah, I'm ready to keep competing." However, as Ed pointed out in our chat, you don't play him until you lose. It literally, if you definitely don't play him on Monday. And if you win that game, you don't play him game 3. And you don't play him until you lose. And that's exactly what the Brewers should do. And I kind of trust Pat Murphy to do that. There's no sense in rushing him back. You got game 1. I have been very skeptical of the Brewers this entire year, especially when it came to the postseason. What gives me optimism is, unlike previous years, we really, really played a good game 1. I love the bats getting going. I love, like I said, Freddie gave up a couple solo shots. Solo shots will be solo shots. Like, as long as they're not 3-run homers or 2-run homers, like, very encouraged. You didn't have to pitch McGill. You didn't have to pitch Uribe. Kanan gave up a solo shot, but again, 9-1. you wonder how much steam they got coming in that situation. So I picked Cubs in 4 based off the Kurt just commented and said it was awesome to see hits without being home runs all the time. I feel like the Brewers have done that all year. Like, that's been the Brewers' MO this entire year. They're like kind of like a cornered boxer where they're just going to keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you until you got nothing left. Like, that's what I love about this team. They don't need the long ball to win. I know a lot of national media and whatever will say, like, oh, the long ball wins games in October. Well, I feel like this team doesn't need the long ball to win in October. Put the ball in play, make these. You saw today, Nico Horner, who's probably going to win the Gold Glove at second base this year. You put the ball in play and you make him field it, and he makes an error. And the Brewers get a run out of it because they take advantage with aggressive base running. William Contreras going from second to home on that. It was all around encouraging today. And the only downside, like I said, was the Churio thing. But his post-game comments lead me to believe that in a do or die, he's going to be available. So, like I said, I picked the Cubs in 4 for the sole fact of I just don't necessarily trust the Brewers in October. They haven't won a series since 2018. This team can definitely be different. And today definitely made me feel very good about where they're at and very bad about my prediction. I also took the Dodgers in 5. I believe the Dodgers closed out that game. I'm going to check real quick. I know it was 5-3 in the 9th. So I'm pretty sure they closed it out. They did. So Dodgers in 5. Still pretty confident on that pick. I think I had the Blue Jays in 4. Blue Jays kind of put a stranglehold on the Yankees in that game. Like where that's at. I had the Mariners in 3. They are currently losing 2-1 in the bottom of the 6th. I kind of feel like the Mariners are the team of destiny. And as I sit here with a Seattle jersey on, the Mariners are definitely my second favorite baseball team. I definitely grew a soft spot for them when I lived out in Portland and made my way up to Seattle for baseball games. And obviously I'm a Seahawks fan, so for football games. But hopefully they can come around and pull that off as well. I don't have much more to say on baseball. We'll see what happens on Monday. Like I said, I think the Brewers would be completely foolish to play Churio on Monday. Let Isaac Collins start. Let them do what they need to do. The next thing I'll touch on is Wisconsin football. The Luke Fickell experiment is over. I need to eat a giant L on that. I don't know what to say. They're just not competitive. I mean, they were competitive today for a majority of that game, but it's just Wisconsin football's not in a good place. Fickell needs to go. I hate to break it to people, but that buyout is, I believe, $28 million if they want to fire him in season, and it drops to 18 after this season. So for people that are hoping he gets fired mid-season, it's really not going to happen. There's a chance he gets fired after the season, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that either. He's putting together decent recruiting classes, and I want to hold out hope, but I kind of feel like it's a lost cause at this point. I don't have much more to say on that. It's kind of just a depressing time to be a Badger football fan at this point. So let's move on to the NFL. As you can see, I am the resident Seahawks fan. I'll touch base on them real quick. 3-1 to start the year this year. Can't complain about it. I believe 2 of the last 3 years we started 3-1 though. Hasn't exactly been the toughest schedule. We are number 1 overall in DVOA right now, which is a very encouraging sign. I love where our defense is at. Offense has been, other than week 1, the offense has been great. Darnold's playing out of his mind. JSN is, I'm gonna take some heat for the take some heat for this, but I think JSN is a top 5 receiver in the NFL at this point, and I don't know how you can argue it. Puka Nacua is the only one that's putting up better numbers right now. I had Puka ahead of him, but I love where JSN's at. I love where this offense is at. I'd like to see a little more from Cooper Kupp, and the run game. The run game has been, it's kind of hard to explain it. Like, it's been decent and better, but they also lead the league in running plays with lost yardage. So it's really hit or miss, and it's really, the good plays are good, but they have a lot of negative yardage plays in the run game. That being said, the offensive line is light years better than what it's been. And light years better only puts us like maybe top 20 in the NFL, but we've had arguably one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL the last 3-4 years. So top 20 is great for me. I know a lot of people that will listen to this podcast are Packer fans, and they can't relate because your offensive line has been really good, with the exception of the last 2 weeks, I guess. You guys have had a lot of injuries, but your offensive line is really good, guys. Like, Jordan Love has a lot of time to throw the ball. Don't take that shit for granted, because there's a lot of other teams in the NFL, and look at our podcast alone, like Seahawks fan here, offensive line play has been horrid. Texans fan Sawyer, his offensive line is complete garbage. Dolphins offensive line has been questionable the last couple of years as well. That's Will. Don't take that O-line stuff for granted. It's not the sexy pick. It's not the, those aren't the sexy wide receiver, first round wide receivers, first round running backs, first round quarterbacks, but those guys in the trenches go a very long way to making your team suitable. And that's why the Packers have been as good as they have been for the last 20 years. That O-line play has always been at least top half of the NFL. So I do like where Seattle's at. Like I said, I'm very encouraged by Darnold. This week is a big litmus test. Tampa's missing a lot. No Bucky Irving, and they're missing 3 corners. Seattle will be without Julian Love, who's kind of the quarterback of our defense, and Witherspoon, who's our best corner. Josh Jobe has played really well, and Kendrick Nunn has played really well too. Look for those two to step up. Ty Akuda will take over for Julian Love in the secondary, but banged up Bucks offense, banged up Seattle defense. No DeMarcus Lawrence either. I know DeMarcus Lawrence is old, and he's kind of an afterthought to anyone outside of Seattle, but he's been a huge part of why we can send four and not have to blitz. And Mike McDonald is a defensive genius, especially when he only has to send four. So it's going to be a really good game in Seattle this week. A lot of the guys in the chat like Seattle. I'm a little skeptic. I like Baker a lot. I'm a big Baker guy. I think Baker's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. That offensive line for Tampa has been banged up with injuries all year to the point where he's winning games with 4 starters out. And they get Tristan Wirfs back this week, who is arguably one of the best tackles in football. So that's going to help them a lot. They're still down a couple offensive linemen, and Seattle's defense is tough. So, it's going to be a really good game. I think it's the best game of the week. Maybe you could argue Broncos-Eagles, but I think Seattle-Tampa is the best game of the week. And if Seattle can win this game, I've been very critical. I do a group chat rankings in our bigger group chat where we have a Ravens fan, a Dolphins fan, a Falcons fan, a Texans fan, Packers fans, and me, a Seahawks fan. And I've consistently ranked Seattle third. And I've kind of taken some heat for it. I have the Packers 1 and the Ravens 2. The Ravens 1 is probably a little bit of a hot take, but I just think when Lamar's healthy, that team is, Lamar's Lamar outside of Josh Allen. I don't know that you can argue there's a better quarterback in the NFL. So if Seattle wins this week, I will be very optimistic, and, I got to see it against a good team. So I know the guys went through their week 5 preview, Josh and Will, yesterday. I sent my picks to the chat and I got completely roasted, which I have some kind of oddball picks for this week, but I also believe in the NFL's variety and teams you don't think will win will win. I took the Browns to beat the Vikings. My defense for that pick, I know they're starting Dylan Gabriel, a rookie quarterback, but the Vikings are down 3 starters on the offensive line and having to deal with Myles Garrett in that defensive line. Dylan Gabriel might not have to do a whole hell of a lot to win that game. So that's kind of why I lean the Browns in that game, and that game's over in London. I picked the Broncos to beat the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to be fine. I just kind of think they're due to lose one. They're pulling a Chiefs, if you ask me, where they're kind of just playing with their food. They don't necessarily care too much about the regular season. They got to get that A.J. Brown thing under control, though, because you need him happy if you want that passing game to work. I got the Cowboys over the Jets. I think the Cowboys offense is the best of the 4 groups out on the field, I guess you could say, because I don't trust the Jets defense. Certainly don't trust the Jets offense. The Cowboys defense is historically bad, but that offense proved last week, even down CeeDee Lamb, that they can make some noise and score some points. I got the Panthers over the Dolphins. Will doesn't like that. Group chat doesn't like that. I think it's just 2 dog shit teams. So I'm going to take the home team, and that's kind of why I lean that. Saints over the Giants. Saints have been competitive in every single game except the Seattle game. So getting them at home, Jackson Dart on the road on his second start, that Saints crowd is not completely out of it yet, out of the season yet. So it'll be a good road environment for Jackson Dart to go into. I just kind of think the Saints, every NFL team eventually wins one, except for the Browns and the Lions in their respective years where they were absolutely terrible. So I think this is where the Saints get one. Colts over the Raiders. It hurts me and it doesn't hurt me. I loved Gino when he was here. He was a great bridge quarterback, but he doesn't have an offensive line, and that defense is booty. So, and I think he's got 8 picks through 4 weeks. And he's just not on the same page with his receivers, and Brock Bowers is banged up. I really like what Indiana Jones is doing with the Colts right now. They should have won at LA last week, but the 80 Mitchell fumble at the goal line and the holding penalty when Jonathan Taylor broke off, it's like a 45 or 50-yard run, cost them in that game. I like the Colts. I picked the Ravens over the Texans. This is more of a FU to Sawyer. Sawyer thinks because they beat the Titans, they're world beaters again. That offense is booty. And I know the Ravens defense is booty. I've listened to multiple NFL podcasts this week, and pretty much the sentiment for this game is it's the ass bowl, which is two sides of the ball that are the Texans offense is like 30th and the Ravens defense is 31st. So it's just ass on ass. And I don't know. Cooper Rush is a serviceable backup quarterback, and the Ravens are at home. So I picked the Ravens. More of an FU to Sawyer than anything else, but yeah, gotta be contrarian if you're gonna win these pick'em pools, which we decided we're gonna start doing on the pod now. I picked the Titans to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals are down to their third string running back. They made a really good late push against Seattle last week. I don't know if that was more Seattle playing lax coverage or necessarily what it was. You hope Marv can get going. I like Marvin Harrison. I know the Cardinals are in my division, but they're the least of the other 3 teams that I have ill will towards. I think Marv is a good receiver. I think you got to start asking tough questions about Kyler after this year because, it's 5-6 years of making the playoffs once and getting your shit kicked in. Like, I don't know what you do if you're the Cardinals. It's tough to move off a decent quarterback, but at some point, Gannon's got to try and save his job. So we'll see what happens after this year. And like I said about the Saints, I just think every one of these NFL teams is due for one. And I kind of think the Titans, this is an opportunity for them to get their one. I got the Commanders over the Chargers. I still think Justin Herbert's good. Problem with the Chargers right now is they're down Joel, Rashawn Slater. They have, I think, 2 starters on the offensive line that started the year. The Commanders' defense was absolutely ass against the Falcons last week, but I think they kind of have a little bit of a bounce back week, and the Commanders getting Jaden Daniels back obviously makes a world of difference. So I got the Commanders winning that game. I actually have Tampa coming into Seattle and winning. And to me, I think it's going to come down to the last possession, and I trust Baker more than I trust Sam Darnold. I think Baker comes in to Seattle and finds a way to win. A anytime touchdown pick I like is Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka is from Washington. He's coming home to play this game. His mom bought like 30 tickets for family. I think he for sure gets a touchdown in this game, especially with Seattle being down Witherspoon and Love in the secondary. So I like Tampa to come in and win by like a field goal or something like that. Lions at Bengals. I mean, this is kind of do or die for the Bengals on the Jake Browning front. Jake Browning is usually a decent backup quarterback, but he's been pretty ass through 2 weeks. So the Bengals are at home. This is a pick that Ed made. Ed swears by the Bengals beating the Lions. You know, I took a lot of crap for all my picks this week. And then no one in our group chat had anything to say when Ed picked the Bengals to beat the Lions. So that's comical, but whatever. Lions are going to win that game. Bills Patriots. I actually think this game is going to be really close. I did place some currency on the Patriots to beat the Bills for the sole fact that I believe it was like plus 315 or something like that. I do think the Bills win the game, but I do think Drake May and the Patriots keep this close. You know, more people would be talking about the Patriots if Drake May and that team does not turn the ball over 5 times against the Steelers. And I get it. Like, they turned it over. It is what it is. But I think the Patriots are a somewhat dangerous team to make the wild card in the AFC. Chiefs Jaguars on Monday night. I got the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs kind of found their stride. I would, however, not be surprised if the Jaguars found a way to win this. I know they don't necessarily have it going on offense. They are running the ball well with Travis Etienne, and that defense has more turnovers through 5 weeks than they did all of last year. So whatever changes they made defensively from last year to this year, clearly working. So I'll end on Wisconsin basketball. Wisconsin basketball, I am so excited for this year. They bring in FAU San Diego State transfer Nick Boyd, true point guard, which allows Sean Blackwell to play off ball. And Blackwell played point guard great last year. He did great for us, but his natural position is off ball. Nick Boyd coming in. We saw what Greg Gard has been able to do with Mountain West transfers who average about 10 points a game before. I don't think Nick Boyd's going to be John Tonje this year. He doesn't need to be. He needs to come in, score about 10 to 12 points a game, run that offense, let Blackwell, let Winter, let Austin Rapp transfer from Portland, who's been tearing up practice so far. I really like this Wisconsin basketball team this year. Purdue's loaded, Michigan's loaded, but I think Wisconsin is the 3rd best team in the Big Ten, and they can easily win a Big Ten championship this year. I'd love to see us go further in March. I'm going to wait to make those predictions until I see us, but I like, I want Greg Gard's head on a platter 2 years ago. I got no complaints about him. They've changed the offense. I'm honestly as excited as I am about the Seahawks. I'm more excited about Wisconsin basketball this year. I cannot wait for the college basketball season to start. Subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, Thanks for tuning in, guys.